Hi there, this is George, and I'm known as GentlemanRocker if I make music. And I wanted to do a short video about the 3 new gadgets for the Gadget group, because some guys understandably said we need to know if it's worth the buy, and I'll try to show you what the gadgets can do, and you have to decide if it's okay for you to shell out 10 bucks for it. Normally I do this in German, so if you're German speaking, I do a whole series on Gadget and also hardware synthesizers, stuff like that in this channel, so you might want to subscribe to it. This English speaking stuff will be a bit cut short, but I'm thinking about doing stuff like that. But there are enough other people who do cool stuff. But anyhow, let's take a look. I will make me a little bit smaller, and let's see where we find the new gadgets. I would say we start with Gladstone, because many people said, isn't it the same as all the other sample players that we have? You could use Bilbao or something like that and put some analog drum samples in it. But I think, yeah, you can do it, but you have to work a lot to have this kind of control as Gladstone gives. So in my opinion, I will lower. Too loud. Yeah. In my opinion, it's really easy to do convincing drums with this. As you can see, the whole gadget, I will make it a bit bigger, is built like you would record a real drum set. So you have ambience that you can send to the compressor and EQ, and choose the level of mixing in the master. So if we put the ambient down, this is a kick from this kit. This is the standard first kit. You can do a studio kick. And now if we lower the ambience, this is a dry kick, and the send doesn't do anything as long as you don't mix it in. But with mixing the ambience in and excuse me changing the send for each drum, as you will see, you can exactly choose how it sounds. And as you see, if you go to the snare, the ambient settings, not the mix of course, but for this particular sample, differ for every sample. And with that you can dial in a real sounding, good recorded drum kit. So let's do, excuse me, some basic stuff. Okay. Okay, close to. Doesn't sound that good. So now if you go through the skits, and if you think like I do, the hi-hats are way too prominent, You can tune it if you want, if you think they're too bright sounding, but you also can change the level. It's like lowering the recording of it. And I mean, one thing that I'm not that much a fan of is, if you take a look where the samples are, sometimes they change, like in this instance, low tom, tom too low, and the next one is a crash. I would have liked it to be maybe at least 8 of the pads to be this pad is this every time. I mean, kick, snare, snare roll or rim, whatever it is, and open close hide are the same always. So if you only work with them for the basic beat, choose your drum kit. It's okay, like this maybe. Okay, so of course you now can dial in the compressor, and if you see, this doesn't change because that's the stuff that you put your mixing desk into normally. There you can EQ it and do some compression, add some drive, stuff like that. And in the master bus, to the right, there you can dial in the ambient mix, which sounds like, yeah, you could change a little bit the ambience, but you get a really different feel with this. And of course you can take a dry sample and a recording of the ambience, mix it in, but then you have 2 samples to work with every time you play this instrument. I think this one is really suited for someone who wants to record drums like they would be recorded if they were real drums. So you can really good emulate a real drum recording, which brings me to the next one, which is the bass, the new bass machine, which is Madrid. And this one really sounds like a played bass instrument. It's worked, of course you can do your bass with other instruments, but this one really sounds like an instrument, a played instrument. Of course it would be cooler to really record it, but if we would like to record instruments and not use software, we wouldn't use this anyhow, so that's no problem for me. And one thing that works really good with this one is arpeggio. If you go to scale, you have the arpeggiator, and this sounds really static if it's in this speed, but you could record some chords, like chord progressions or scale progressions, and then in the step editor move them around. Let's do this. Let's record one round. So, and now you have a working bass line that you can of course edit, like if you want it to swing more, or if you don't want this really static progression, you can of course move them around. Like, let's say, play this one. And in this gadget, I will make it bigger again, you see you can choose your instrument up there, 2 effects that you can pre or post, put pre or post amp, and you can edit the tone and the envelope if you have an amp following, the envelope for this. Like on a synth, it's like changing how you play, basically. If we play this, you can make it less the notes a little bit longer, and maybe a little bit smoother play. But we can also take a look at the different sounds. I like this fretless sound, so let's take this. And of course you have these amp types. If you, I will solo the bass for this, where you can additionally change how it sounds. Yeah, let's take this one. So then you have a bunch of effects which are suited for this playing. It's not standard effects. You have stuff like the tape echo, which is often used in music. You can of course overdrive, something like that. You can do phaser, and you of course can choose where to put the effects, if it's in front of the amp or behind, which also suits the idea to mimic a real recording session where you would have more effects probably, but you would choose where to put your effects, build up the amp. If you're building your sound, like with a modular, you also do it with guitar or bass, and you can do this here, and it sounds really convincing. I mean, it's $10, will be 15, which is also okay in my opinion, because in this instance you don't have anything that sounds like a real recorded bass. I can understand that Gladstone seems to be only a sample player, which I think it's not, but you get what I mean. I think there's enough difference to shell out the $10. I would pay $10 for an app that has this sound without being in this package of a fully working DAW with a lot of gadgets where you can seamlessly insert it into the song. My opinion, but I understand that some may think that it's not appropriate for another sample player, I might say. But I think they're really treated extremely different. The last one is a chiptune synth, which for me is a lot more than just chip tune player. Why don't I've muted? I've soloed this one. So let's go in here, because it's not only a chip tuney synth, because it's emulating the 8-bit sound, but it's a really convincing synth with a lot of stuff to set up. You can draw your own waveforms. So let's do this. So you can, as you see, you could really change the sound on the fly. You could kind of see it like a manual wave shaper or maybe wavetable synth, because you can kind of seamlessly change from one sound to another. And what the good thing is, what you can do is make really dirty basic sounds. So if you would take a look at this is basically pulse width modulation. But of course you have these imperfections, which makes it sound a little bit dirtier, 8-bitty. So and if you take a look at the sounds it ships, I mean, you can try to paint that in. Not for me. But I think you can see why this is a lot more than the previous chip tune gadget that we have, which is this sucker. Let's take a look at Kingston there, which also is kind of chip tuney. I have to unsole it first and just unsole it, which is also, I see this, you have this basic gadgets, which Kingston is part of, that you get with the app, and you get the more editable, more doable gadgets where you can change a lot more, dive really into the sound and have better sounding, maybe not better sounding, but more high-end sounding or more realistic sounding gadgets. Depends on which it is. I think probably you've used one of these bass machines before for emulating bass guitars, and now you get the real thing. You may have used samples to play your drums and try to make them sound realistic, which you can do now more easily. And I guess that's what they're doing with the system. You get this, if you take a look at this, you have a lot of stuff like London is a really basic sample playing drum machine, and you can upgrade it kind of with Bilbao to a more editable, more workable sampling machine. And I get this feeling that every gadget that you can buy in app, after the fact that you bought the whole gadget DAW, they are maybe a more high-end version of this really good synth, because I don't think the London doesn't work well. But of course, if you want to do specific stuff, Bilbao will be the better one. If you have to edit your samples and stuff, it's really more easy. The same with this chiptune sounds. If you wanted them, you had them with Kingston, but Kamata will be the better one, because you can edit the wavetables yourself. You can really dial in what you want more than Kingston does. And of course, updating the DAW in itself, Gadget, will not pay that long. And I'm really willing, I would pay for updates. Like this Arpeggio stuff is really gold for me. It really works well for synth stuff. And I've used it also for bass line. And yeah, I'll open Mellotron, which is a song I made kind of specifically only with this kind of stuff. I also have used Glasgow with the new Mellotron pack, so that's this. It's if you buy module, you'll get this pack for free for now. And as you can see, I have Gladstone here on Madrid, a lot of Kamata synths and some Glasgow stuff, and you can do, in my opinion, really convincing stuff with it that sounds like it's realistically played. Or in this instance, I've programmed an Amen beat, which was a real drum recording, sampled and looped. So if I started, and let me see, I will go here. This is my Amen beat that I produce, and as you hear, it's not a sample, because if you stop it in the next instance of your patterns, it will sound out, it's realistically played, but it could be recorded realistically. And in this instance, I've used Madrid. Let me see. You can see this is recorded with the Arpeggio, and in this instance, I really tried to use it as a synthesizer bass sound to look if I can push it there, because it really sounds well like this. And maybe you could do this sound with another of this bass synth gadgets, but in this case I needed something like that. But you also can, of course, use it for synthy stuff. Let's see, I'll add this one. This is also Mellotron sounds from the module pack. This is a Mellotron Flute, so it's also a very retro sound, which suits the package, I think. And added to this, I have some sounds from Kamata. So let's start from the beginning. This is a normal paddy sound, synthy pad sound, which has a slide on the note off, which really gives it a lot of melody and life. And I've added to this a normal, little bit sweeping pad sound, which is also something you can do with Kamata. So it's not this only this harsh sounds. Then I have an offbeat with a lot of reverb. And if we unmute this one, we have some dubstepy bass sounds, which you could, of course, combine with these analog drums to your suiting. So I think they really are something other than the others. Like this Tokyo drum kit is something extremely other than the drum sample players and Gladstone. So there you have it. These are the differences, and I think they're worth the money. Maybe not everyone will need a bass player or realistic sounding drums. I will use them like I do here, probably a lot, which means programming an aim and beat and putting a filter on it to make it sound like it's in the distance, like you would do with a sample, maybe if it's too much in front, too heavy, which the aim and beats tends to be, because it's full of drums and hits and kicks and stuff. Can be a bit overwhelming, so you just drive in some of the filter and you're good, in my opinion. So there you have it. Thanks for watching this long video, but you wanted an insight. I hope you've got it. See you. I'm GentlemanRocker. Bye.